Sorry, gotta take those glasses off. Anyways, this is the man from Chaunigan Lake. And I guess today maybe I want to share some of my wildlife encounters. Yeah, I like to tell my stories. When I was up at the lodge and looking after the lodge, I often stopped by guest cabins or went down to where the rustic cabins were, and I'd sit around the campfire and tell some of my rather exciting stories. So I guess I really want to start with the first one that I added. So I wrote 3 books of my adventures, and this was a kind of way to give the guest something, a keepsake from the lodge. And basically, I didn't own the lodge at the time, but I felt like I looked after the lodge like it was my own place. And guests who arrived really believed that I was the owner of the lodge. So after 2012, 2013, I had a couple of boys working with me. 2014, that was the year that I had over 34 different wildlife and wilderness adventures. So I'd like to just share the first one that I often tell people, or told people at the time, because I'm no longer affiliated with the lodge, but I'm kind of thinking about starting a ecotourism business agency business. So, you know, I'd like to guide people. So I have a unique style, and it's basically bushwhacking. So I take you on an adventure through the bush without a trail. Okay, getting back to my story, because this is the really cool part. So it was I think the middle of June, and at the time I had Maggie and Jenny. Maggie was a black lab and Jenny was the husky mix. And we often went, we went every day on a daily hike. On that particular morning, it was early, before sunrise. And we headed out from the lodge, down across the beachhead, past between some of the rustic cabins. There's a trail up behind there. It gently goes up a slope and then pops out onto a forestry road. And yeah, you know, I'm always kind of daydreaming when I'm doing my walks and just thinking about whatever. And Jenny's off doing her thing, running through the bush, and Maggie's walking right beside me. So just a little thing about Maggie, she's like crippled up and with arthritis, and she was born with epilepsy. So she's, you know, but she's always game. She's always game to come for these hikes with me. Anyway, so we're walking along the trail, the road, and then we come around this corner in the trail, and the sun is just coming up, and I come around the corner, and the sun is just shining in my eyes, and I'm there, and I'm looking, I've got my hand above my eyes here on my forehead, and I'm looking, and there's something in the road. And I say, fuck, what is that? What is that? And then, you know, I move over to the side of the road, and Maggie is like cowering between my legs, and, you know, and I'm wondering. And then all of a sudden I get into the shade, and what do I see in front of me? there's a sow and 2 yearlings, right? And I'm like 30 feet from these 3 bears, and that's like 3 big grizzly bears, actually. So right away, something pops into my head that I heard before, that if I howl like a wolf, the bears will disappear. So I start howling, and I can hear Jenny barking off in the woods over there. And what happens is the sow goes up on her hind legs, and she starts huffing at me. And right away, my eyes, of course, are growing wide, you know, and she's huffing at me. And I'm saying, oh my God, okay, come on, Maggie, let's back up, let's back up. So we backed up about 10 feet. But, I mean, anybody else would probably be shitting in their pants right about now. But I just grabbed my camera and I took a couple of pictures. And the sow dropped down to all fours, and she took off running in the bush. So I'm thinking maybe she had another yearling up in the bush, and that's what Jenny was barking at. But in the meantime, I'm still there with the 2 yearlings standing in front of me. One is up on his hind legs, and he's doing the same thing that his mom was doing. He's huffing at me. Then the sow comes back down and stands in the middle of the road. Now, they're standing in a 3-point position. So they're like thinking they're getting attacked, and they're in a defensive position. Now, I just calmly talk with her, and I kind of say, well, you know, Mom, you know, it would be great if you could just take your cubs with you and go up into the woods, you know, and then I could just finish my hike. And you know what she did? She did exactly what I said. She took her 2 yearlings up in the bush, but of course, a little bit of caution here. I waited till they were at least 100 yards up in the bush before I continued down the road. And, you know, it was quite an eventful day, because that wasn't the only encounter I came up along. But so I went, Maggie followed me, and later Jenny joined us, and we did the hike all the way down that forestry road. And yeah, so it's about a 5-kilometer loop once you start from the lodge and you end up at the lodge. But so we're coming around. We passed by over a dip in the road and passed over the culvert that Chaunigan Creek runs through. And then we went up the other side, and now we're in. So there's a V in the road for this forestry road, and the one that I'm on goes to the forestry campground, and the other part goes to Chaunigan Lake Lodge. So now we're on that part of the fork in the road, and we're heading back to the lodge. Now I'm coming onto the airfield. I walk up onto the airfield, and over, across on the other side, up in the trees, I see something white. And I'm wondering what that is. So I take out my camera and I zoom in that little white spot, and I realize it's an albino red squirrel. Well, I've never seen an albino anything really. So this is like winning the lottery, the wildlife lottery. So anyways, I got a really nice picture of the albino red squirrel eating a pine flower. And then, not moments later, as me and Maggie are walking up the airfield, I've got my head down, you know, I'm thinking about something. And then I look up and I see this huge black bear walking towards us with his head down. And then Maggie starts barking, and his head just shoots straight up, and he sees us. And like I said, we're really close. I mean, I don't know, probably, 25, 30 feet, 35 feet, something like that. Anyway, so I mean, I just stand there and look at him, and he's looking at me. And then he just decides to trot off to his right, or my left. And we watch him disappear into the forest. And I continue on my walk back down to the lodge. Just crazy excited with all this footage that I've got on my camera and can't wait to share it. So back in those days, I had a Facebook page called, Chaunigan Lake Lodge, and I posted videos and pictures and all kinds of, wrote little stories, and and I had built up quite a lot of followers. I had about 540 followers at the end of it. But then there was a falling out between me and the owner in 2019, and it just, things just went a little sideways from there. But in the meantime, there's a lot more stories I want to share with you, because it was totally amazing to be up there at the lodge. And this is basically 5,000 feet above sea level at the end of the road. And I was totally alone up there in the winters. In the summers, I was more than happy to engage with neighbors in the lodge. So that will be it for this little video. And I hope you come back and watch some more of my life. Thanks for watching.